We buy into a very specific promise about modern urban living. We install passcode locks on our doors, set up high-definition security cameras, and move into gated communities with 24/7 surveillance. We do this because it provides a powerful sense of safety, isolating us from the unpredictability of the outside world. But at 6:40 a.m. on an ordinary Wednesday, inside a highly secure residential colony in Delhi's Kailash Hills, that sense of safety collapsed. A 22-year-old woman was murdered inside her own home. She was an engineering graduate from IIT Delhi, known to her neighbors as a soft-spoken, disciplined student. She spent her days entirely focused on preparing for the highly competitive UPSC Civil Services exam. On that particular morning, her parents had left for their daily gym session, leaving her alone to study. Looking at the gated perimeter and the reinforced door, there's a paradox here. In a home designed to be a high-tech fortress, the most sophisticated security measures available failed to trigger a single alarm. The police investigation immediately revealed why. The alarm stayed silent. There were zero signs of forced entry. The heavy doors and complex locks did exactly what they were engineered to do. They kept outsiders out. But the defense failed because the intruder wasn't an outsider. The killer was 23-year-old Rahul Meena. Up until about 6 weeks prior, he had worked inside that exact house as the family's domestic help and cook. The family had hired him on a casual recommendation from another officer. They skipped the formal police background verification entirely, trusting a social connection rather than relying on documented data to vet the person living in their space. Because of that access, Meena didn't need to break in. He weaponized his insider knowledge. He knew the parents' morning routine, he knew the layout of the rooms, and he knew exactly where the family hid the spare key outside the apartment. When we substitute formal data verification with informal social trust, the locks on the door become irrelevant. A secure home effectively becomes a trap for those inside. To understand how this violence escalated, we have to look outside of Delhi. The trail actually started the night before in Alwar, Rajasthan. At 10:30 p.m., Meena forced his way into the home of a friend's wife. He sexually assaulted her and threatened to kill her family before fleeing into the night. Now a fugitive, he hitched a ride in an ambulance by promising the driver cash. He traveled through the night, fleeing his first crime scene and heading directly toward his former employers in Delhi, arriving around 6:30 a.m. Meena's history shows a clear trajectory. For months, he had been spiraling through a severe online gaming addiction and accumulating massive gambling debts. He had been borrowing from everyone he knew, including fellow domestic workers, behavior that eventually led to his dismissal just 6 weeks earlier. These early warning signs, addiction and unchecked financial desperation, often precede a localized crisis. When left unmonitored, that desperation can explode into lethal violence against those seen as easy targets. Between 6:39 and 7:22 a.m., 3 defensive layers failed in real time. First, the perimeter. A guard recognized his face and let him pass. Second, the front door, bypassed using a hidden spare key. Finally, the interior. He used inside knowledge to attack the studying woman. Delhi police eventually caught up to him using a technique called IPDR, or Internet Protocol Detail Records. Even though he sold his phone to avoid GPS tracking, investigators traced his digital footprint when he logged into his Instagram account using a hotel's Wi-Fi network in Dwarka. He was arrested within 12 hours. Advanced digital tracking is highly effective at solving a crime after it happens, but it is fundamentally incapable of preventing an insider threat from exploiting the keys they were already given. Preventing these breaches requires a shift in focus to preventing access. In Delhi, 100 to 125 domestic workers undergo official verification every single day. The centerpiece of this process is the Police Clearance Certificate, or PCC. It requires employers to submit photographs and identity details to the local police, who then investigate the workers' native records to find any past criminal involvement before they are hired. By combining these checks with digital identities like the Aadhaar card, authorities strip away the anonymity that dangerous individuals rely on. This creates a permanent record that deters crime before it starts. This is why resident welfare associations are attempting to enforce strict verification guidelines. They are designed to protect the most vulnerable residents, like students or the elderly, from the risks that come with letting a stranger into the home. Choosing hiring convenience over mandatory verification creates a gap in the household's defenses. It effectively shifts the burden of safety onto people least capable of defending themselves. We often assume that hardware, cameras, locks, and walls, provide security, but hardware cannot evaluate the character or the history of a person authorized to enter. A reinforced door or a high-tech camera can record a tragedy, but it can't prevent one. Real security isn't found in the hardware we install, but in the verification process that must happen long before we ever open the door.